Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, who shows densely serves peasants, vassals, meat sacks, paint slime. I'm a useful idiot, and today I would like to talk about AFRICOM. And a lot of Americans have heard about AFRICOM, and I assure you that all Americans will be hearing a lot more about AFRICOM in the next few years and the next few decades, as this is new turf for the American military. And in fact, AFRICOM, or the African Command, is the first post-Cold War military command unit over a continent that's been created since the 50s. So this is kind of a big deal, and it's definitely a big change in American foreign policy towards Africa. And also, it's an interesting showdown between the United States and China as well. And so I've recently had two of my theories confirmed about what America's foreign policy has been towards the African continent. And one of my theories was that it was going to be a showdown for natural resources between us and China. And of course, over the last decade, China has had a huge impact in Africa. So let me set that up a little bit first. China invests $5.5 billion annually in the African continent. And they extract about 1.5 million barrels a day of oil, which is a small amount considering what China consumes, but as we know in this area, every little bit helps. So there's actually 750,000 Chinese nationals that live in Africa now, and Beijing even paid for the African Union headquarters building at a cost of $200 million. So they're really trying to make an impact there. And the Chinese are concentrating on bringing manufacturing, construction, and finance to Africa, which is very proactive and very beneficial for Africa itself. So now we have the United States creating an AFRICOM, or African Command military umbrella. And what we bring to Africa, of course, is weapons, advisors, training of their native armies, support of insurrections and wars and puppet governments, and quite a different palette than what the Chinese are bringing. And of course, with American influence in Africa, there will be a lot of failed states and a lot of chaos, which will make it very inhospitable in the future for Chinese investors. So this is a real showdown between the US and China, as was Libya in North Africa. China had a lot of influence in Libya and had access to the oil, and of course now they're completely out of the picture. So this is more chess moves between China and the U.S. But to get back to the main story, we have AFRICOM, and it was created in October of 2008. And like the rest of the new military paradigm shift that's going on, this unit and this command will be made up of elements from the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force, and emphasis on special forces. And kind of like the rest of our military, there will also be a lot of reliance on private mercenary groups. In the case of AFRICOM, they use a company called Military Professional Resources Incorporated. And this helps because they don't have to say exactly how many U.S. troops are involved, because of course mercenaries wouldn't be counted among those numbers. So we probably have a far larger presence in a lot of these African countries than they officially acknowledge. And even what they acknowledge is pretty interesting. The reason why this has come up again in my radar is because they're transferring another 3,000 battle-hardened troops from Iraq to service in Africa. So we're really beefing up our presence in Africa, and that's my point here. We actually have 3,000 troops with accompanying armor, aircraft, and drones in Djibouti, Africa, and we also have bases in Congo, Ethiopia, Mali, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and other countries. And we also service African continent from bases in Italy and Germany as well. So, and we have 80 Marines in Mozambique. We have 1,200 Marines in Morocco. We have some 3,000 troops in the Democratic Republic of Congo now. We have military presence now in Somalia, Sudan, Libya, Congo, Uganda, Burundi, Ethiopia, Nigeria. So, and there's no question as to why we're there. It's been said that the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where we have the most U.S. military presence now, is the most resource-rich country in the world, with vast new oil reserves discovered, and oil discoveries in Uganda as well. And so anyway, we're going to make Africa a priority through AFRICOM to commandeer their resources. So part of my other theory about our foreign policy towards Africa was that we just as soon the populations killed each other off and died of disease so that we could just go in there and deal with failed states and scoop up all the resources, most of which have been unexplored. So it's a vast continent of great resources, and all the countries of the world will be involved in this struggle, but primarily the U.S. and China, of course. And just to make sure it's clear what American foreign policy intent is, and how U.S. troops are being used to perpetuate corporate interests in Africa, in 2007, the U.S. State Department, an advisor, said, quote, protecting access to hydrocarbons and other strategic resources which Africa has in abundance, and assuring that no other interested third parties, i.e. China, India, Japan, or Russia, obtain monopolies or preferential treatment. So, of course, what America wants is for its corporations and its transnationals is monopolies and preferential treatment. We don't want the Russians and Chinese to have it. So, so when the Chinese move in there and basically build infrastructure and invest in the country, the U.S. will basically just come in militarily and recolonize Africa. And that's the theme of my video. I believe we're seeing the recolonization of Africa. And the Arab Spring in North Africa was part of this. So they dismantled the powerful regimes in the north of Africa who had a great deal of independence, like Egypt, and like Tunisia, and like Libya, and you dismantle them. And those countries were also trying to create more of a leadership role for themselves in Africa. Libya specifically wanted to have a gold-backed currency and wanted to trade African oil in local African currency, and it existed outside the central bank debt system the rest of the globe has. So anyway, so there we have it spelled out, and if that's not enough, Vice Admiral Mueller also declared AFRICOM's guiding principle of protecting the free flow of natural resources from Africa to the global market. So once again, we have another leader in this command telling us that it's about extracting resources from Africa. So there's no bones about what this is all about. And in fact, Kissinger himself said, and I quote, depopulation should be the highest priority of the U.S. foreign policy towards the third world, and that the next decades will be marked by resource wars. So he ought to know, and he hit the nail on the head. Depopulation is the goal. It's the goal in the Middle East. It's the goal in Africa. It's the goal in Latin America, and it's the goal in Asia. So, but that's another story in itself. And I also did find it rather interesting that Senator Barack Obama, who is now the president and architect of this new AFRICOM, the sole piece of legislation that he authored as a senator was SB 2125, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo Relief, Security, and Democracy Promotion Act of 2006. And it basically spelled out that Democratic Republic of Congo was in our long-term strategic interests and part of our national security apparatus. So I find that really interesting, that of all the legislation that Obama would have been on board with as a senator, and my take on that, of course, is that the handlers and the masters tested him on this legislation, to sponsor this legislation and to author it, to see if he was on board, because this piece of legislation has a lot to do with geopolitical activity that we're seeing now in full swing, and it has a lot to do with the military-industrial complex too, because Congo has the 64% of the world's cobalt reserves are in the Congo, and cobalt is very crucial to the high-tech industry, but most importantly, the military-industrial complex. It's used widely in military hardware. So anyway, there's our answer. So I hope everyone sees the importance of this creation of AFRICOM. It's a big step for the American military. It's the first time that we've really paid attention to Africa as part of U.S. foreign policy in my lifetime. And the fact that it's a military arrangement where we will have U.S. troops, or already have U.S. troops, in some 53 of the countries in Africa. And any regimes that have any independence whatsoever will be replaced with puppet governments. And we're going to have advisors in there. We're going to create native armies. We're going to arm and equip and sell arms to these native armies. We're going to create puppet governments. We're going to funnel money in there. We're going to extract their resources. The banks will go in there and give them huge loans and use their farmlands and their minerals and their oil as collateral. So they will end up confiscating it. So this is all part of the grand recolonization of Africa and another part of the New World Order. So now we have Africa, like the rest of the world, will be dismantled, and sovereignty will become an illusion, and things will be broken down into smaller fragments, and Africa is no exception. And we're already seeing it. Libya is splitting into two, and Sudan was recently split into two, and we're going to see a lot more of that. So anyway, I think everybody should be really interested in AFRICOM. It's not really too much in the headlines yet, but this is a big step in this thrust into the 21st century. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.